Hey, I'm James from RAGAMUFFIN, and it's time to talk about a subject that's close to me and I think deserves more of a conversation, and that is the discussions of mental health and metal music and the links between the two. Now, there'll be some discussions on sensitive subjects during this, but I think it's a discussion that needs to be had, and I think keeping it relevant and keeping the awareness out there is very, very important. So I'm going to touch on a few of the links between mental health and metal music, and then also talk about some of my own experiences as well in that. There will be a list of contact information in the description down below. If you need help, if you need support, please follow those links, and they'll be the best way that you can kind of get that help and support. I think overall there's quite a sense of community within the metal fan bases. A lot of people looking out for each other during live shows, during moshing, crowd surfing, and then just in a general live music setting. Even more than that, there's a lot of dialogue between artists and fans, and how either side of that dynamic people are still affected mentally. Many people use going to live shows as a cathartic release, something to get endorphins going, get serotonin boosted. It's important to have those positive feelings at a show. There are so many musicians who use their platforms to raise awareness on how they struggle, and I'm going to touch on a few of those. A prominent one for me in particular is the transparency, openness and honesty that Beartooth frontman Caleb Shomo displays through the band's music and during their live shows. The band's debut album was described by Shomo as being written to get my head on straight, explaining it's about him putting honesty and emotion into his songs, using it as a form of escapism and therapy.
That's always been something that means a lot to me, and then that's why Beartooth exists. That's the whole point of every album, pretty much, is like trying to understand mental health.
Beartooth's third album, Disease, showed Caleb exposing even more of his vulnerability and opening up about the depression which he suffered from. The album's title track was able to create such an incredible connection with fans, with the live performance often being preceded with a speech from Caleb discussing how people need to be aware of depression, to talk to friends, and to care for each other.
It is fucking so hard sometimes to do this shit, to come up here and fucking cut myself wide open in front of people and tell you about the darkest shit that has happened to me in my life night after night. It gets fucking difficult. The amount of times I have talked to people that say they relate to these words, that say they understand that pain, it just makes me realize that no matter what I want, this thing has become way fucking bigger than me now. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who has supported Beartooth, who has supported me in this journey.
The song Disease has become something of a powerful moment myself every time I've seen it live, and still to this day, it's probably one of the songs I connect to most because of these reasons. Like I've previously mentioned, the transparency and honesty makes it easy to connect to find relatable, and to find comfort in. Some of these themes have continued through more of Beartooth's music, with the recent single release of Riptide, talking about how Caleb is finding a way to move on to a more positive perspective and hopeful themes in his music.
And I was like, holy shit, like, this is the first song I've written that has like an ounce of hope in it. You know what I mean? That isn't just incredibly self-deprecating and incredibly like dark.
Sean Long, guitarist of While She Sleeps, has been vocal about his anxiety and how he's been able to cope with it at times when it can flare. Sean has spoken about having a panic attack on Warped Tour in 2012 and dealing with anxiety since then. He mentions about looking internally, finding solace in Eastern ways of thinking, as well as readings from Eckhart Tolle and Alan Watts, helping him come to grips with his anxiety. In Sean's own words, in an interview with Kerrang, he said, "I consider my experiences with mental illness to be a positive thing, because I see the world differently now. Going through it, it's almost like the cosmos is giving you a little bit of a prod on the back, and once you come out of the other side, your outlook on life is much more optimistic. When I was growing up, I heard about depression and anxiety, but I didn't know what they were. Now I understand how nuanced it is. My version of anxiety might be completely different to someone else's. It's almost impossible to explain what mental illness feels like." Sean spoke of the While She Sleeps song Nervous, saying it's the single most important song he's ever written. It touches on the struggles he's experienced, and instead about the song being bigger than him or the band, and it's about trying to find a more positive spin on a negative experience.
And anytime I experienced any anxiety, I would feel it all in its entirety without doing anything about it, instead of when people get worried, they drink or they take tablets.
Mask it.
Yeah, so I did this thing where I'd say Going Raw, where like whenever I felt any of these feelings, I'd be like, right, I'm going to do this, and I'd sit there and I'd be aware of it as much as I can, instead of trying to find something to take it away.
Yeah.
And that for me is worked wonders. Do you know what I mean? Instead of, it's scary and it's easier said than done, but to consciously be aware of what's going on inside you and look at it with open eyes instead of trying to run away internally, it works wonders for me, like for real.
Straight from the Path drummer Craig Reynolds is extremely vocal on social media and on his podcast The Downbeat about his mental health struggles over the years, showing no filter between how he feels and the audience that he has. During the second episode, where Craig features Architects frontman Sam Carter, the pair discuss each other's mental health, with it having a very open discussion. Sam talks about the loss of Tom Sir and how it was important to talk to someone outside of the band and family about coping with this. Sam reveals he takes antidepressants, talks about how he wanted to find the best person where he lives for counselling, no matter the costs, and how everyone should be looking at therapy, because you would go to the doctors to get checked out for physical health, so you should be doing the same for your mental health. When I first listened to this episode of the podcast, this in particular was something that resonated with me and pushed me to start looking at counselling and therapy.
I had a couple of relationships fall apart through me just not really looking after myself and kind of just being hard to be around. I was like, something's happening in my life where all these relationships I'm in are falling apart. Why is this? And it's me. I was like looking for a counsellor and kind of, realising that I needed to go and kind of being like, okay, right, I'll just get like a medium level. Earlier in the middle of 2020. So I just thought, right, I'm gonna find the best fucking guy in Brighton, and if I have to be careful with my money, it's fine. I'm looking after myself. It'll work out. And it was the best thing I've ever done.
Danny Winter-Bates, vocalist of UK metalcore band Bury Tomorrow, is another individual very outspoken on their mental health and about showing transparency in how he's feeling. He splits his time between being in the band and working for the NHS, involved in staff wellbeing. He posts regularly via his social media to promote the discussions and share his story on the platform that he has. A post to LinkedIn recently delved into his history of mental health struggle, how he internalised his feelings and shut himself off growing up, having a breakdown in his 20s, but then having the support system around him to encourage professional help. Ever since then, he's used his experiences to educate more people and remove the stigma surrounding mental health issues, openly even talking about medication, which he helps to manage his struggles.
I think the last few years and the pandemic and the state of the world, I think, has really shown everybody that mental health is something that you can't shy away from. It took me a long, long time to be able to be open and vulnerable and honest about the struggles that I go through. And I think it's a vital part of recovery or this ongoing journey within mental health to be open. But it's equally important that you have to find tangible things that you can do that can help you along that way.
So that's a few examples of some people in the metal community that openly talk about their mental health and their struggles. And now I want to talk about myself for a little bit. I can quite openly say that I really have struggled with my mental health. A lot of my close friends know about it and they've been an incredible support, and I'll touch on them in a minute. But for me, I've used metal music so much as a comfort, as a distraction, as a therapeutic release when I'm going to live shows. It's given me the feeling that I'm not alone sometimes when you have that feeling. Having that something to rely on, that's not just like a person. Sometimes I think having that something you can connect to in a way, that's the only way I can really describe it, has been a big part of my life, and so I owe it to metal for that. Like I say, a few of my friends have been incredible, and I do just want to kind of shout them out. I'll start with my fellow Ragamuffins, Alex and Dan. Alex being my literal brother. Alex has been the best brother I could ask for. He has been phenomenal, and we've grown up through all kinds of stuff together, and I love that kid to bits. He is absolutely amazing. Dan has helped more times, I think, than he would even take accountability for, and has done a lot, I think, without even realising it. And so I thank you very much, Dan. There's a few other people in the vlogs that you've seen from like Slam Dunk or Download, being Kieran, Abby and Amy. They've all been great support. They've seen me at various times when I've struggled and I've been low, and they've been there to help me and support me. So thank you very much, guys. It does mean the absolute world to me. There are other people I could thank, but to be honest, I just want to wrap it up and just mention one person in particular who you've met him before. He's been in our vlogs. He was our very first person that was a guest on the podcast with a perfect gig. He's this strange lad from Download, and that's Ruben Wertheim. This guy has been the best friend I could ever ask for. He has been there through so many rough times, helped me through so much, been my absolute rock when I've needed it, and I couldn't ask for a better friend. I really couldn't. Rubes, you've become family to me, mate. As much as I've said it between us, I love you to pieces, dude. You've done so much for me, and I hope you know that I'm always there for you as well. Thank you. To end this on a positive note, I've reached a point where I'm really trying to better myself, finding professional help, finding counselling, therapy, and being more vocal about how I feel, because I think that's something really important to be able to do I want to be able to help people more with it, and hopefully having this discussion will allow me to do that. And if by chance this can help one person, that's objective completed for me. I'm happy with that. Being able to do this podcast, discuss music, document the gigs we go to, look back over vlogs and that with my best friends is something amazing, to be honest. And the support that people have given us, watching our stuff, coming and saying hello, the smallest little things like a comment on a video, you don't know how happy that makes us and makes me with that. We love doing this, so keep that support going. Here's to the future. Like I said, there are links below in the description. If you need help, if you need support, please go after it, and just make sure you look after each other. Keep that metal going.